the Mets. And the Mets, Steve Gelbs, Todd Zeal. Todd, apparently we just did such an amazing job live streaming Max Scherzer's sim game 2 days ago. They wanted us back to do this, so we're on the mic.
Steve, careful what you wish for, right? Because that was an easy duty, watching Max and his intensity come out here and throw against his own team. Dom Smith took him deep a couple of times. There was some fun banter. Now there's fans in the stands. It feels real, and these guys are going to go out there and try to get in a little better shape. I don't think anybody's going to be breaking up double plays or running guys over, but it's going to be a little more intense than what we saw the other day.
Whole lot of pressure for us to deliver here. We set the bar high, and you're right, it's different. There's an atmosphere. I feel like I'm yelling so I can hear you, but that's honestly the point of this, right? That it's now starting to feel more real. You've got fans in the stands, you've got the scoreboard up, umpire behind the plate, expecting to play 5 innings, maybe 6, and a lot of the regulars are in here. You're going to see a lot of the guys that we expect to make the starting roster on the field today.
There's one right there, the fly ball to Brandon Nimmo, who is playing center field
that was
today.
Daniel Palka leading off. Now here's the key. We don't know who's blue, who's orange. Everybody's blue.
Good question. It's a blue versus blue as far as I'm concerned.
So listen, this guy that's coming up to the plate right now, not going to make the opening day roster, but top 100 prospects in Major League Baseball just came out today. Francisco Alvarez ranked number 10. This is the dude in the Mets organization.
He
right
is,
now.
and he's a catcher. He's obviously got great size, but he's got a great idea what he's doing at the plate. Not just a slugger, and for a young hitter, what you hear about him, and I'd love to see some of it today, is his pitch recognition, his ability to control the strike zone. For a big guy with pop and can be free swinging, he's very selective, and he drives that one deep right there. And now you see why he's one of the top 10 prospects. Nimmo runs it down, but that ball was driven.
That ball was scorched. And what I was going to say, and I don't know if it came across on the live stream, but it certainly did here, is the ball sounds different off his bat. You know those guys, those true power hitters that you come to watch him take BP?
Yeah, I thought that ball might get out of here. Got held up a little bit in the heavy air and the wind here in Florida, but that's a good approach, and what we just saw, I think, is a microcosm of what we heard about him a lot last year. Now, Dom Smith, 2 swings so far this spring, 2 balls on the bank up there against a guy named Max Scherzer. Hands are feeling good.
There's Dom lifting that one into left field. Mark Cano runs it down and ends the inning, so a quick, easy 1-2-3 for Jose Rodriguez.
I'd say quick, but not necessarily easy.
That's true.
A couple of balls hit pretty hard, which is good to see. You're seeing the guys getting their timing this time of the year. I mean, nobody really cares about results. I mean, you want to do well when you're a guy on the bubble, but the veteran guys is really what this game is about. Right. The veteran guys, the guys that they know are going to be going north with them. It's getting them at bats, getting them used to game situations, and getting them to see more and more pitches, especially in this shortened, condensed version of a spring training.
No, Todd, how different is this when you just get the fans in the stands and the atmosphere we see right now? We're in between innings, and you've got the regular games going on the scoreboard with the fans. We've seen Buck Showalter even yesterday. He piped in the crowd noise during some of the relay drills, trying to emulate what it's actually going to be like. How different is it when you get into this type of an atmosphere versus normally the first few weeks of camp, but the first few days of camp here?
Right, I mean, it's obviously been such a condensed time so far because of the late start. But look, Steve Gelbs, you came out here and the adrenaline was high when you opened the broadcast. The voice is a little louder. You feel the energy of the crowd, and we're sitting up here in the stands like a couple of schmucks talking about baseball. So these guys feel it, they understand it, they understand that this raises the intensity level a little bit. Nobody wants to get embarrassed in front of the guys and girls that are here to watch them play today. So yeah, it just is, look, like I keep saying, Buck is not looking for guys to make the team or break their spring training out of these couple of games. What they are looking for is guys to stay healthy, take quality at bats, get a feel for live pitching, and hopefully start getting closer to game ready before they have to go north in a couple of weeks.
And the team that's coming up to the plate right now, apparently this is the blue squad. The team in the field right now is orange, just based on the scoreboard, but this is looking probably a lot closer, at least in terms of the guys that are playing, to the opening day roster lineup. It's going to be a different order, but Robinson Cano is going to lead off here. He's the DH. James McCann catching, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Eduardo Escobar, Francisco Lindor, Mark Cano, Brandon Nimmo, and then Nick Plummer will bat ninth. We'll see. We'll see what Starling Marte is going to look like. They're taking it a little easy because he's got a little tweak of that oblique, but apparently he's progressing nicely as well, so we'll see if he'll be ready for opening day.
I had a chance to spend a little time with him earlier today during the workout, and very nice, generous with his
really
time.
Good guy.
But you know, said that it's feeling good. It's not a severe oblique strain. He's had them in the past. He feels like it's progressing well. Doesn't expect it to impede his start, but no reason not to be overly cautious right now.
So Todd, let's watch Cano and tell me what you see in Cano. Obviously coming off the year away, he's facing Thomas Sapucki right now. You know, addressed and apologized to the media, to his teammates after his second suspension. But you know, you put that aside for a second, and it's a player on the back end of his 30s after taking a year off, trying to get back and make an impact. So, you know, tell me what you see in this at bat here.
Well, Robinson Cano is just one of those guys that will, no matter how long he plays, is going to do things like that. He's got tremendous bat-to-ball skills. Saw it from the day he got to the big leagues with the Yankees. Was talking about it with Billy Epler today, who saw him as a young player coming through and has just seen him, as you heard him say, I think he's going to hit till he's 50. He may well hit till he's 50 because he's got some great hands and knows what he's doing at home plate. Not really sure if we're expecting him to get a ton of at-bats to be out there every day, but I think in talking to some of the guys, they do hope that at the DH role and sometime at second base that he can put together 300, 350 at-bats over the course of the season.
Now, I don't know if our stream picked it up because if you just got the one camera, but when Cano got to first base, Dom Smith was bowing down to him. I think that I mean, how difficult is that really to even at this point to be taking that much time off? And I mean, that just wasn't, you know, your run of the mill. That was Robinson Cano. That was taking the pitch where it was thrown and going to the opposite field.
Yeah, I mean,
first at bat.
He's coming up against a left-hander, which is an interesting, you know, way to start him, because if theoretically he spends time DHing, good chance it'll be on a platoon level, face the right-handers. But that swing that you just saw, and whether or not the viewers at home had a great chance to see it, kept his hands inside, didn't try to do too much, lines the ball to left field, just knows how to put the barrel on the ball, and he's been doing it for a long time.
2-0 to James McCann, inside 3-0. And McCann looking for a bit of a bounce back year offensively. Had his moments last season, especially when he started to split time a little bit when Nito pushed him, but I think McCann's looking for obviously something a little bit better in his second year at the plate. Behind the plate, I think he came as advertised, but at the plate, I know he expects a little bit more out of himself.
Agreed. I think, and I did a lot of breakdowns and discussions about McCann and sort of the inconsistencies that he felt last year at the plate. And I think it had to do with early on, he was really looking to hit the ball to right field. We had heard a lot about his ability to hit the ball to right field, to drive the ball to right field, to hit the ball where it's pitched. And I feel like he lost some of what his power zone is, which is that middle in fastball, because he was trying to shoot it to right field, and pitchers just kept burying him there, and he wasn't getting the quality contact that I think he was accustomed to getting. And then he finally got his foot down a little bit earlier, started thinking that pull is okay, not worrying so much about hitting the ball on a line to right field. And you saw him start driving the baseball, and that was a good sign. A little too late, but I think you're going to see more of that approach from day one. Instead of trying to shoot the ball through the shift, he's going to try to drive the ball from gap to gap.
And here comes Pete Alonso. I'm sure you heard that ovation. It seems like the fans are fond of him.
Yeah,
they have a fan or
there's
two.
a pretty good reason to be a fan of this guy. He's, I think that might be a little extra appreciation, as everybody already knows, going through just a very traumatic experience on the way here to camp. And it was great to talk to him about it because he just, I think, had a very human reaction to it. It's just you never know what's in store for you when it could be your last day, and he felt blessed to be here. He feels like it's miraculous that he wasn't injured in it, and I think he's just excited to get baseball going and have this sort of energy focused to the things on the field.
He's always a guy that seems to put it in perspective, but it seems like it did take him to a whole new level. And Buck even talked about it, that it's like, I've never seen a guy that excited to just be back out on the field. It's pretty amazing that and this is where he feels obviously the most comfortable, and he loves being out there, he loves the game, but to not even take a couple of days off after that, find that remarkable. Here's the 0-2, fouls that one back into the stands.
I think one of the other things about Pete, and it may be hard for everybody at home to understand, but he went from sort of virtual obscurity to absolute superstardom in a place called New York City. Became sort of the delegated spokesperson for the team and the team leader, and with all of that comes pressure off the field that you can't help but feel, and I know that Pete has felt it and taken it on his shoulders at times, and that, to your point a minute ago, is probably part of the reason why he loves to be out there between the lines.
Luis Guillorme, Matt Reynolds, over to Dom Smith for the 6-4-3 double play. Forget how quick Guillorme is getting that ball out of his glove.
He knew that Pete wasn't going to be busting it down the line, but except contrary to in season where he busted down the line every time he leaves the box. But I mean, just to finish the point, sometimes there is a sense of relief. Your only real sense of freedom at times is between those lines, because you're doing what you know you love to do. You're doing what's natural. You're doing what you feel you're meant to do in a competitive nature, and you can take away some of the distractions that are outside these fences.
So I'm very interested to see what this guy at the plate does this year, Jeff McNeil, who has done absolutely nothing but hit. It's out of the way of a breaking ball, looks at Thomas Apucky. Think we're going to get any charge on the mound here today?
No charge on the mound. There might be a little fun banter, though. Maybe he ought to fire the next one over his head to the screen and then see what happens. But yeah, there's always a little hijinks in spring training, but not in this particular matchup.
But I had a really interesting conversation with McNeil a couple of days ago, because he's certainly one of many, I think, bounce-back candidates on this team, maybe the prime bounce-back candidate on this team. And he was talking about how last year he just got so bogged down, as I think a lot of guys did, with all of the numbers and the percentages and the hitters meetings before the game, almost trying to predict what was coming up at the plate. And he said that his approach for at least the first couple weeks of spring is to almost pay no attention to anything and just go up there, see the ball, hit the ball. He said when he was at his best in 2019, half the time he didn't even know he was pitching that day. And I think, for some guys that works better than others, but for McNeil, it's probably important to get a lot of the thoughts out of your head and just react when you're up there.
I think it's very important to McNeil, and I don't think it can be overstated, because I do sense that, look, he's an intense guy, but he was showing a lot of additional frustration last year on outs made, on at-bats that he didn't feel like he had quality at-bats. And I think part of it had to do with the fact that he felt conflicted in the box. And we got to talk about it at one point, where he was expecting the opposing pitcher to be so good and so nasty that it took some of his own confidence away. And he's a guy that lives on confidence. And I think that is a part of what the point he's making this year is, don't worry about who's out there. Whoever's out there has got to throw it over that 17-inch plate between the knees and the shoulders at some point, and when they do that, I'm going to hit it. Don't worry about their spin rate and the way their ball's going to go down and what they do with 2-1. All those things start to cloud your mind, especially when you're a guy that's a pure hitter like Jeff McNeil is.
2-2 in the dirt, so it goes to a full count, 3-2. Robinson Cano on third base, 2 outs here. scoreless in the orange-blue scrimmage.
Man, oh man, you're actually doing.
I gave it a shot.
Know, a little.
I don't know. You know, Wayne's here. Wayne Randazzo's here.
Wayne's here.
And
that's a lot of extra pressure. I see
said,
Wayne down there with the knee brace
He said when
on.
he heard when I was doing this, he said, why would they not have me do it? So I have to show him. I got a couple of chops.
Yeah,
I've never done play-by-play before in my life, but I think that was professional right there. Oh, take strike 3 on the inside corner looking. And Thomas Apucky out of the jam.
And maybe we've got some family members of Mr. Sapaki right here in the stands because somebody was really fired up with that strikeout. Hey, great to have Mets fans back in the seats.
Todd, you didn't acknowledge my call there on the punch-out.
It was so good that I moved on seamlessly, just like I would if I was sitting next to Gary Cohen. Seamlessly move on to the next thing. I can't sit there and praise everything he does, or I'd be there doing nothing but praising Gary Cohen.
Yeah, but so that's the difference between Gary Cohen and myself. He has the confidence where he doesn't need to be praised every second. I need that. I need the positive reinforcement.
I was going to circle back to the outstanding 2-strike call right there on the inside corner curveball to strike out Jeff McNeil. Way to go.
Gary, when he saw us, Gary Cohen was here the other day, and when he saw us setting up to do the Max Scherzer live stream, he said, "Oh, Gelbsy on play-by-play." I said, "Gary, I'm just going to be talking to Todd. I have never done play-by-play before in my life. I can't handle this." He said, "Well, during the broadcast, when you're in the middle of a story, you have to call a play. You do a fine job."
Yeah.
So that's about 7 seconds. And Gary says, "Yeah, 7 seconds, 3 hours, not the same thing."
Little different, yeah. Agree.
You know, while we have some time though here, all joking aside, I know you and I got to watch Max Scherzer throw a bullpen today. We've seen him around here the last few days. Obviously, there's a lot of storylines, but he is the storyline in spring training. And I got to tell you, I know we were talking about his intensity just during his sim game the other day, but this guy's intensity throwing bullpens, it's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Never seen anything like it, yeah. And somebody asked me, was a catcher a million years ago and would catch a lot of bullpens in spring training, catch a lot of times in games. I've never seen a pitcher speak to his catcher, and I'm not saying that it was derogatory or disrespectful,
no.
Just in such a demanding, specific way as Max Scherzer does. And I guess when you've done it as well as he has for as long as he has very specific wants, goals, needs behind the plate. He wants to feel as comfortable on the mound when he looks to the sign, when he looks at the target, and when he goes to deliver the pitch, and he's making sure that there is no ambiguity from what he wants and what these catchers are doing.
Matt Reynolds leading off this half inning for the Orange squad, but back to Scherzer. So today, like you said, he's yelling, but again, it's not in an angry way. It's just a forceful to James McCann, hey, set up there. This is what my fastball's got this run. Don't move. That's where it's going to go. Set up, put your glove right here. As Reynolds pops out, one away. But the other thing he was doing, so he throws his slider at one point and misses down and away, and we know it was missing down and away because he had Eric Langell set up as a batter in the box too. And he just yells to himself, "Great miss. That's a good miss. That's a good miss." Then when he doesn't throw a pitch that he wants, he's yelling at himself as well. But I've never seen a pitcher do that during these side
sessions. And by the way, what we're seeing may just be his inward intensity and his inward dialogue, being blurted externally, and that may just be his method, because I can guarantee you that guys like Jacob deGrom or Clayton Kershaw or guys that have done what they have done successfully for a long period of time in this game have those same types of thought process. They're just not necessarily, blurting them out like Max does. Max just feels like he has no filter. He says what he believes. You saw that during the negotiations, during the lockout stuff. And, and it's interesting, but it's also going to be, I think, entertaining at times. And you can't argue with it because it's brought a lot of success. And you can't get offended by it either. If you're a guy that's behind the plate, somebody asked me that today. Hey, would you be offended if you were a veteran catcher and he told you to get your, I'm going to say cup, but he used another word onto the outside corner and set up with your glove here, and he says it in such a direct way. I said, no, absolutely not. This is a guy that wants to look down and know what he's looking at and have confidence every time you put a signal down. If that's what you got to do to give it to him, that's what you do to give it to him.
And I would think, and McCann is the type of catcher that doesn't really have an ego, but I would think you would, it doesn't matter how many years you've been in the league, you'd want that from a pitcher the caliber of Scherzer, no? As Davis takes one on the inside corner, strikes out looking. Luis Guillorme coming up to the plate for, what is this, the orange team? It's the orange team.
Oh, the orange.
We should wear orange uniforms, I'm sorry.
I think JD thought that ball was a little inside, by the way. But
anyway, I would think you would want,
yeah.
Hey, tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
And I think to that point, James McCann, as you said, is a much more low-key guy in what you see out of him from a demonstrative level. However, he is very much a leader on the field, and in the same way that Max will tell him, do this, do this, do that, if he sees something that Max is not doing right, whether it's Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, or Edwin Diaz, he knows these guys in and out, and he's the first to go out there and say, hey, get this going. You're doing this. You see the way he works with the pitching staff, and that was probably what I was most impressed with him about last year.
Luis Guillorme, it's good wood on that one, but run down in right field by Nick Plummer, and that retires the side. Through 1.5. Orange, nothing. Blue, nothing.
But back to that, I think, unless you want a cold beer, because we're getting that.
Is that allowed?
Right?
We've got some executives from SNY sitting in front of us.
Well, we can
Are we allowed to call some refreshments in? It's a live stream.
Maybe we bring the refreshments for the executives and
got it.
And we'll have a little more.
One last point though on Scherzer, on the attention to detail. So we talked about his bullpen session, and I think some of it is to be expected with him working with a new catcher and trying to figure out exactly how the two of them work in tandem. But even in the clubhouse today, he went over to Pete Alonso and was super specific about how he wanted Pete to toss him the ball on plays at first base. And at one point Pete said, yeah, no, I take pride in making sure that it's right in the breadbasket. And Max said, that's great, I appreciate it. But here's I want your footwork like this. I mean, he was describing exactly how he likes to hit the bag. This guy is one of the greatest of his generation for a reason. And we're seeing it very early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we talked about a lot already and has been easy to see if you're here, you're in the clubhouse, you're on the field, and that's the fact that you're not just getting an ace caliber arm, you're getting a high quality leader and a guy with intensity that wants to win. I compared him to Kirk Gibson on that '88 Dodgers team the other day, and I think he does have that kind of ingredient where he holds other guys accountable for their actions. And I don't think he's a guy that's going to allow some of the, let's call it hijinks that we saw happen over the course of last season.
Another guy who is like that in probably a more understated, less known way is the guy that's going to lead off here for Blue in the bottom half of the second, Eduardo Escobar. And actually, when Max Scherzer signed, he mentioned Eduardo Escobar's signing as one of the things that piqued his interest because of the reputation that Escobar has in the game. But this is one of those signings, Todd, that I think is a sneaky, really good signing for this team.
This guy knows how to play his position. He's a quality hitter. He's a professional hitter. It's from both sides of the plate. He drives in runs. He hits with power. And he's been a thorn in the Mets side as well. So, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about having him on this team.
Yeah, he's built. You see him up close and you see how strong he is. He's a bit of a stocky guy, but you understand where that power comes from as Sapucki sails the first pitch to the backstop. But Buck Showalter talking about Escobar today, even though Escobar's got some versatility, he said that at least in spring he'll get the majority of the reps at third base. I think they view him as the starting third baseman right now. And J.D. Davis, who's in the field right now playing third base, he's in a little bit of an unknown spot right now as he tries to figure out what his niche on this team will be?
I think there's a couple of unknowns still left to play out. And you know what? We don't have the same insight necessarily or crystal ball that a Billy Epler has, and what kind of interest there might be in some of the guys that we're looking at, whether it be Dom Smith, J.D. Davis, or a guy like Jeff McNeil that we've heard talked about. What we do know is that it's a good problem to have right now, because all three of those guys that I just mentioned, I think are due for bounce back years. I think they were all impacted similarly offensively last season. I think they all feel like this is a year that they're going to drive the baseball and be successful at the plate, and I think that there's going to be motivation, because whether it's here or somewhere else, they're trying to establish themselves as guys that can put a career up as a big league starting player and hitter. And so you're going to see a lot of motivation out of these guys, and they may have to play all over the diamond, rotate in as the DH to get those at-bats. But I think, as I said, I think right now, Buck Showalter and Billy Epler, they have a good problem to have, because they have depth and versatility out of a few guys that could be very good big league players.
Now, while those guys may be unknowns, this one isn't. We know that Francisco Lindor is going to be here for the next decade, and I thought it was interesting listening to him talk for the first time the other day as he gets out in front of that one and
home running around
skies
the
it
field,
fell.
as they used to say, yeah.
But he was honest about the fact that last year it felt like life, he said, was just a little fast. And I wonder if you could just kind of take us through what that would be like for a big leaguer who, has played his entire career in a smaller market in Cleveland, not as much pressure, not just because of the market size, but also because he wasn't someone who came in as the guy. A huge contract.
Yeah.
And, he had his moments last year. What does an experience like last year do as we look forward to this season with him?
I think there's a couple of layers to that. I think it's one thing to come to New York. That is, he hits it hard.
Defense position.
Double play.
Perfect.
You're welcome to call that one.
No, I was.
I
froze up
right there.
I froze up.
But coming to New York and what you've heard the media portray as the challenges of coming to New York, they're real. I mean, there's going to be more accountability. There's a larger stage. There's more press on a daily basis. The fans are very passionate. All of those things are real. So that's coming as a player in general. When you come as a high quality player with expectations on you, then that's elevated even another rung or two up the ladder. Then when you sign the biggest deal in the history of the game to that point for a position player, then there's an added layer of bricks on top of all the other things, and it's tough to just shrug that off and let yourself go through a little bit of struggle early in the season and pretend like it doesn't bother you. And I think, had you seen him get off to the kind of start of the regular season like he had in the spring training?
Yeah.
He had an amazing spring. He left here, everybody's like, oh, this is the right decision. He is the guy. He's going to be killing it. And he struggled out of the gate. So struggling out of the gate, I think, makes him start to put that added pressure to just please everybody he's trying to please, and gets him out of his own comfort zone at times. And it took him a while to get himself back into who he is as a player, his confidence in his ability, and just be a contributor on the team instead of trying to carry the team.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you're going to see as a difference in him coming into this season.
We may have talked about this during the stream the other day too, but he talked about just the conversation he had with Buck Showalter that resonated with him, where Buck essentially said, hey, these fans want a reason to love you. Just got to give them a reason to love you.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I think that's a great point, and I think that was part of what he might have figured out at the end of the year, because he, in some ways went from the proverbial doghouse to the penthouse in a matter of days or at bats at one point, where he's like, oh yeah, these fans are going to appreciate the good things I do here. Just have to do them a little more consistently, a little more often, and they're going to really love what I do here.
By the way, we didn't even comment on it, but Mark Cano worked a walk, and then Jeremy Hefner came out and said, "That's enough. That's enough. We're gonna switch things up here." But Mark Cano, another really nice, really solid addition. For fans that don't know Cano, aren't familiar with him, think Nimmo to an extent. Yeah, think Nimmo to an extent, just in terms of his plate discipline, how he works the counts, and also has a knack for getting hit by pitches. I think he led the AL hit by pitches last year. So Cano's a guy, an on-base machine as well. They've got another one of those now.
That can't hurt. I mean, getting on base, even in the analytical world that is today, home runs are important. Getting on base is important because it gives you an opportunity to score runs and have the other guys behind you drive in runs. In talking to Epler today, I think you get the sense that Nimmo and Cano can play a number of different positions. Marte certainly can play center field or can play either of the corner outfield positions. I get the sense that they're going to park Cano a little bit more regularly in left field. Probably not going to see him in center field, but he can go get it out there. I think maybe Brandon and Marte have a little bit better foot speed to get to the baseball, but as you said, he's another guy that can get on base, can be a contributor to lengthen that lineup, which is really, I think, one of the things that they were looking to do, is just give them more opportunities instead of really having to be feast or famine with some of the middle guys in that lineup.
So Todd, the Mets have really thrown us for a loop here. All right, now so we're trying to get Steve Gelbs doing play-by-play for the first time ever. Who'd they just announce? Pitching? Cole Gordon. Okay, if you look at the roster, so he's wearing number 51. I've got the roster up right now. Who's a 51?
If I could see Steve, I could tell you who 51 is, but why don't you tell me?
Eric Chavez. He's number 51.
Nice.
So it threw me for a bit of a loop there.
Oh, you thought Chavez was maybe going to go pitch an inning because they were running a little short on arms?
I mean, listen, it's a scrimmage.
Training.
It's spring training.
Okay.
Have some fun.
I haven't seen Eric Chavez, by the way.
I saw him briefly, but I have not gotten a chance to talk to him.
I wanted to say hello to him. I haven't had a chance to say hello to him yet. But, the coaches don't usually wear their jerseys anyway if they've got the pullovers. It's cool to have the pullovers and not have a number on your back.
Last year when Hefner changed his uniform number midway, we commented that it doesn't really matter because we've never seen Hefner in uniform.
Never seen it.
It's always been the pullover. All right, so here we go. Okay, let's give you a little nugget here to chew on. Okay, Carlos Cortez leading off for the Mets, ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous. So
and he's really starting to fill out this year.
And he's also a guy that in the outfield, I wonder how ambidextrous he is. And what I mean by that is, can he be equally powerful arm strength from both sides? I mean, switch hitting is one thing. We touched on this a tiny bit. It's one thing to be able to swing the bat and make contact and be a good hitter on both sides of the plate. It's a completely different thing to be able to throw the baseball. And I was mentioning that the only player that I've ever played with that is truly ambidextrous was a guy by the name of Luis Alicea. And Luis was a first-round pick by the Cardinals back in 1986. And we played together, and it was years we played together. And in the big leagues, years later, some guys were saying they really wanted to see some left-handed BP. And we didn't have a left-handed BP thrower at that point for the Cardinals. And he's like, I can do it. And we're like, yeah, right, Louis. He got out there, turned the glove around, and threw stellar BP, 65, 70 miles an hour straight down the middle. And that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody with that kind of skill with both arms.
So here's the question, though. And we have not talked to Cortez about this. Maybe we should. But if you're not a pitcher, what's the benefit of throwing with both arms?
It's a really cool parlor trick. And you can probably get the guys, to buy you some drinks because you can make some bets. But I mean, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, if you were a guy that played left field and maybe first base, right, and you're better in left field as a right-handed thrower, but first base you get a little advantage turning it around and being left-handed, maybe that's something. But in the outfield, unless you just go through dead arm at one point, switch gloves, and you have a fresh one on the other side. I don't really know if there's a distinct advantage.
So, Todd, speaking of parlor tricks, were you there for Buck Showalter's kind of informal media availability?
I was not.
Did you hear this?
No, I can't wait.
So after it breaks down, he starts talking about how he likes to have talent shows normally in spring training, that he's not going to have the time because it's so short this year. But he says that during one of his stops, I can't remember who he said did it, that someone brought in 2 monkeys who knew how to throw batting practice.
Wow, I'm not touching that, Steve. I'm gonna let it just live right there and go for some dead air because I don't know where to go with that story.
He said that he made it sound like one monkey threw BP and the other monkey actually tried to hit the ball.
I wonder if that might have been pre-cell phone, or we have seen that all over the internet at some point.
It's not what you want to do if you're Gordon. Reach out and try and barehand
let that ball go.
comebacker.
You got guys behind you, barehanding.
So you've never seen a monkey
I've
throw BP?
I've never seen a monkey throw or hit BP, and I've never heard of a big league talent show, although I think it could be quite interesting. There's some guys with some hidden talents I've noticed in the clubhouse over the years. You've seen, whether it be Ryan Dempster or Denny Nagel, both guys do great impersonations, but yeah, that'd be an interesting one to see.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. What would your talent be?
Oh yeah, I'd probably do some kind of karaoke, horrible karaoke, to complete my talent. Maybe do a poetry reading, but you know, Steve, I'm not going to be out, on center stage showing it off anytime soon. So don't try to start one at the SNY studio.
No, I won't. I would do the same. I think low key, I have an incredible voice. I'm just putting it out there. I'm being humble.
I'm being really surprised lately by people that are not necessarily expected, that are very confident in their singing voice, and I have yet to see it come to fruition yet, but I can't wait to put you on the spot.
On my wedding night, at my wedding, I sang a song in front of everybody to my wife.
And you know what?
You're just too good to be true.
Nobody would ever tell you if it was not perfect anyway. It is your wedding. That takes a lot of gumption.
It was perfect.
I danced with my wife. I did not sing. I'm gonna have to high five you on that one.
Your lovely wife is right here.
She is indeed. Lucky me. She gets to watch a ball game with us as we sit and chat about it.
All right. Let's pay attention now. Again, who's pitching? What do we have? Alvarez on the mound, and here comes okay. We've got Brandon Nimmo leading off. Now I don't know if you're watching this live stream right now, and you have yet to see Todd and Brandon from Hot Stove the other night. You've got to go. It's on YouTube. Is it on the SNY website as well? It's on SNY.tv. You can find it on multiple platforms. But I thought it was a fascinating conversation that you had with Brandon Nimmo, just standing in the batter's box.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was actually something I was really looking forward to doing. I met Brandon briefly, but never really had a chance to talk to him like you have.
Yeah.
Know that he's a phenomenal guy. He's very thoughtful with his responses, and the more I asked, the more excited he was to tell about some of the things he'd learned, including why he's more patient at the plate, where that developed, his ability to hit left-handers last year, how that developed, having to go to a smaller bat because of the velocity in the game. Things that I had suspected, but I really wanted to hear his perspective on it. And I couldn't have been happier with the way he was able to make those responses and give me insightful answers for not just me, but hopefully kids out there can take a listen to it too and recognize that you can still learn things at the big league level. You're learning all the time.
Well, I think that's the takeaway, and it's been my takeaway talking to Brandon so often over the last number of years, is that he's really turned himself into an incredibly good major league player. And he could have very easily just kind of gone with what he was good at, and that's just, be a guy that goes up there trying to work walks and maybe slapping singles around, but he has, as the game has evolved, and as he's gotten more comfortable, and as he's gotten around the league a few times, he has pushed himself to evolve his approach, to pick his spots a little bit more, which I don't think he did early in his career. Certainly even on the defensive side, to become a much better center fielder we saw last year. And it is a lesson for everybody that where you start doesn't need to be where you finish. I mean, the potential for him, it was always through the roof. He was a high draft pick, and here he is working his walk.
And he does what he does right there.
But he has really, I think, maximized that skill set.
And you know what? I think that's exactly right. It's a great point. You continue to learn. He's a sponge anyway. But one of the things that I talked to him about off camera that didn't get shown, but I thought was fascinating as well, is talked about his ability to stay healthy, his ability to stay on the field. And he said something that I think is quotable, and that is, I'm learning to play smarter, not harder. I'm a guy that plays hard. I've always been a guy that's known for how hard I play. He said, but, as an example, the ball that I got hurt and hurt my neck on was 2 outs, nobody on, Jacob deGrom on the mound, and I try to make a fantastic play to save this one potential double instead of turning, letting it bounce off the wall, throwing it in, and letting Jake get the next guy out. I don't miss 3 months. He said, it's hard to do in the moment, but he said, I'm trying to be more conscious of it, play to play to play. Put it in my mind, understand the situation, know when it's time to do that extra little bit and sacrifice your body. And I thought that was a very fascinating point and something that, I think a lot of people can learn from as well.
He told me that exact same story, and I think it's fascinating. It's those little things that a fan wouldn't think about, and honestly, until he said it, I wouldn't have thought about it either. We're saying, yeah, Jacob deGrom's on the mound, so give up a single, give up a double, who cares? He'll punch out the next guy in all likelihood. But how much more difficult is that to do in reality than in theory, especially for a guy like Nimmo, who the entire thing is go, go, go?
That's exactly what I said to him. I said, I know that's really good, smart thought process, hard to do in the moment at times, especially on things like that, retreating for a ball that you think you're going to get to. I mean, there's freak injuries. You get hit by a pitch and break a hand, nothing you can do about that. You're in the moment. But I think having some awareness of the situation to the point that he's talking about may be the difference in, being able to pull up on a ball instead of diving and letting it turn into a triple or doing something crazy and going into the wall. I think you can do it, but it's not easy because we're all competitive human beings out here trying to make that great play and do what we can to help this team.
It's pretty critical for him personally to be able to pull back, though, to that extent to stay on the field as he takes off here. And this is a part of his game, too, that I think has probably been underutilized, and he'll admit that as well, using that speed to maybe steal a few more bases.
Yeah, he's got great speed. He's just still learning and evolving his ability to steal bases and utilize that speed. One of the things that we talked about that has changed in him just last season is sliding head first.
Yeah.
He's a guy that always slid feet first, and to steal a base in this game as close as that, that margin is, the base stealers go in head first, and he's had to get used to being able to do that and feel like he can do it and stay healthy, to the same point that we were just making. He's used the oven mitt a little bit.
Yep.
He's doing things to protect his hands, but it would be a great additional weapon for the Mets if he could put together some stolen bases.
If he could activate that part of his game, that would be a really, really nice duo to have at the top of the order in terms of what they can do, the havoc they could cause on the base paths too in Marte and Nimmo. And you wonder if he can pick up a thing or two from Starlin Marte, who, again, the speed isn't really the issue when it comes to stealing bases at this level. You talk to Marte, I talked to him briefly the other day about this. For him, it's so much about reading pitchers, trying to understand what they might do in certain situations, and there's Cano again, right? It's a play at the plate, Nimmo out, and no instant replay. So 100% he's out. I can be confident in that call.
He's out. He absolutely is. He didn't argue it, which he wouldn't anyway. But a couple of things interesting in that play, because I was just about to comment on the fact that Brandon stole a base against Alvarez, and that's as much for him as it is for the guys to see Alvarez behind the plate. If there's been one knock on Alvarez so far in his young career, it's his catch and throw skills, right? He's an offensive, beast. So they were going to test him and check him out, and then right there, Brandon hesitated a slight step on the ball that Cano hit because Yorme had moved way in the gap. Brandon didn't realize it. He'd be the first to tell you, I should have read that better. And that extra instant is the difference between safe and out, which, as you called, he was out.
And you know what, though? That is one of the aspects, we've talked about this a lot over the last number of years, that still, I think, for major leaguers is not natural, where the shifting has changed where you expect fielders to be, the way that you've been playing your whole life. And so you always have to remember to take that peek. You always have to remember to, before every pitch, see where the fielders are, because you're right, if he would have, it's an easy run.
Yeah, because the ball was hit essentially at him, and Yorme was over where you knew he wasn't going to be able to get it, and that slight hesitation is something you won't see during the season, because there's always going to be guys checking everybody, but it's also going to be the job of the third base coach and the first base coach as well, to remind them all the time, at you, you're going, behind you, you're staying, all the things that you know that they are going to be repeating to them on a pitch-by-pitch basis to make sure that they don't have those moments. It's hard enough to score runs in this game. When you have one that you could score, but maybe because of a slight hesitation, you got to make those count. And by the way, Cano has the only 2 hits of the game so far.
That's true. Orange is getting no hit, but Blue with the 2 hits, and very typical Cano hits. Very typical Cano hits. He saw that hole, and that's where he went.
He definitely saw that hole that time and used it to his advantage. He bat to ball skills like we talked about.
Crowd here is very into it, by the way.
They're excited to have baseball.
They are excited to have baseball back.
I've sensed the same thing from the guys that when you walk on the field or in the clubhouse or whatever, guys are very appreciative to have it back to what is sort of normal.
I was going to say that because, and as much as I'm sure you get these guys in an honest moment, they didn't despise the fact that media wasn't in the clubhouse last year, but it feels, everything about this spring feels like it always felt. And I think there's just something about it finally going back to normal that has everybody with a little extra pep in the step. I also think there's such good feeling around this team and what this team has done this offseason, the capabilities that they have going into the year, the additions. And, we haven't talked that much about Buck so far today, but he has brought a different level of accountability, I think, to this group. And there's a very clear understanding of what the expectations are from each person. And I think, one of the things Buck said, and you can confirm or deny, but the worst thing for a ball player is uncertainty.
I agree. I won't name names, a couple times during my career. I played for 11 teams, a lot of managers. And 95% of the managers did a very good job of communicating. And I may be biased because I was usually in the starting lineup or wanting to play every day. But the guys I noticed that you got the most out of their bench were guys that had continual communication with them. Made sure they knew a day before if they were playing, when they could get their work in, what they expect out of them. And that's the kind of guy that I've heard that Buck is, and it wouldn't surprise me if he takes it to another level, and it's 5 days in advance. It gets guys prepped for their role on the team.
Well, he was so open about the fact that as a manager, the thing that he tries to think about all the time is what is going through that player's mind. I think he's spent already, and we were talking earlier about guys like Dom Smith, J.D. Davis, where there's still uncertainty in not just role, but even future with the organization. And you've seen Buck spend some time with those guys, because if they are here, and I think that there's a decent chance they will be, they can be very valuable to this team, not just in a bench role, but when the inevitable injury hits. I mean, these are guys that were core pieces the last couple of years, but as a manager, you need to make sure they understand what their role is right now. They talk through any worries, concerns they have, so that you have them in the right mental space when the season does start, if they're here.
Yeah, I think it is critical, and I think that, I think that was a big part of why maybe the organization, kind of really started leaning to Buck because of his experience. You know that he's going to be able to kind of handle the tough situations that might have arisen, especially with a team that's now becoming more of a veteran team. This is now considered a veteran team. You've got to be able to handle those situations, and you have to have command of a clubhouse when there's a lot of guys that know that they could potentially be starting every day on another big league team and might have to be role players here. So I think that communication and his preparation is one of the reasons he's going to do well with this club.
So speaking of communication, I've just received word that you're doing an unbelievable job, but they've had enough of my play-by-play. So they've said, all right, sign off. We're going to keep this live stream going, though, so if you want to watch the remainder of the blue-orange game, keep it locked. 5 full innings, and we'll see if Blue, well, I was just going to say, we'll see if Blue can hang on to the no-hitter.
You're a prestidigitator. You made it happen.
I made it happen. So there goes the no-no. I don't know. I would still watch if I were you, but I understand if you were waiting to see if it would be
Everybody's waiting for baseball. They're going to stick around and watch. Besides, Tom Smith did 2 balls out of the park the other day, and he's coming up next. You can't miss that.
Todd, this has been fun. We bring in the real pros on play-by-play this Sunday on SNY for the Mets' second spring training game, but first on SNY, and that's a 1 o'clock. Is that a 1 o'clock, producers? That's a 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock on SNY. I believe it's Gary Keithron, and I'll get in the way a couple of times there. Todd, we'll see you soon.
Gelbsy,
signing
always
off,
a pleasure.
but not the live
and
stream.
I think
Keep
you're
watching.
outstanding at play-by-play.
Very nice. Very, very nice. I'm going to go sing.
I was told by Gary I got a card from
Number 2, first baseman Dominic Smith.
Great
Number 80, second baseman, Matt Reynolds.
Special events left in the program. I'm Chief Deputy Eduardo Escobar, County Sheriff's Office. Check it out, and remember, walk it when you leave.
All right, it's now time for the Mets fan cam. If you want to be on the big screen, let me hear you make some noise. First baseman, Pete Alonso. Now batting today's judo fresco 2 fresh batter of the game, number 1 second baseman Jeff McNeil. Number 10, third baseman Eduardo Escobar.
Got the rollers here. cold beer here. Icy cold beer. Cold beer here.
Get this.
Number 12, shortstop, Francisco Lindor. Number 19, left fielder, Cano.
Stuff right there.
You know what he did? When the race
One more to go.
Safe Clean Cleaning Services will meet all your needs, including carpet, tile, grout, upholstery, and home and office cleaning, where they specialize in residential and commercial properties on the entire Treasure Coast since '97. Visit SafeCleanFL.com. Remember, it's not clean unless it's safe clean. Home and Suites at Port St. Lucie offers all the comforts of home with All Suite Hotel in Port St. Lucie. Wake up each morning with complimentary breakfast and unwind with complimentary evening dinner and drinks. Served Monday through Thursday and stay connected while traveling on the road with complimentary internet access throughout the hotel. All suites boast a fully equipped kitchen with all amenities. Your attention please now pitching number 38, Alex Calverdi. Number 28, third baseman J.D. Davis. Shortstop Luis Guillorme. Number 87, left fielder Carlos Cortez.
Was that yes?
Yeah, they found me. That's security guy.
Really?
Yeah, no joke. One of them, that's blackout. Yeah, very close to it. He might have given us a loss of down on that.
This one right here. This guy right here. No. I mean,
Number 26, right fielder Khalil Lee. McNeil. Number 81, designated hitter Daniel Alvarez. Freedom Boat Club is the world's oldest and largest membership boating club. The Freedom Boat Club of Fort Pierce, we have 38 boats ready for you to hop on and enjoy the water. The boats vary from pontoons, bay boats, bow riders, offshore center consoles, and not only of the boats in the fleet is older than 2 years old. All members receive one-on-one training with a certified Coast Guard captain. They clean and maintain the boat so you don't have to. You can enjoy boating all over the world. 320 locations. At Freedom Boat Club of Fort Pierce, we turn family dreams into lifelong memories. Hey fans, don't forget, make sure and get your tickets for this Sunday's game. As eventually hosting the St. Louis Cardinals, we still have tickets available. Game time is at 1:10 p.m. Your attention, please. Now pitching, number 9, Brian Lindor. Leading off number 9, center fielder Brendan Nimmo. Right fielder Nick Plummer.
And we'll show the last out.
Where's everybody from? Down here a little bit. You guys opened up the I know. Yeah. Hold on, man. Oh, you went to high school, so you're right down here. Say it again. There you go. Good job. Good job. You guys have a good time. Good luck to you guys. Need somebody to go. What you guys got 3 hours each?
Number 66, designated hitter, Mark Vientos. Number 98 pitcher, Hayden Singer. Number 76, first baseman Patrick Mazika.